Morning, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, hey Rob, good morning. I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for joining us again on our Microsoft monthly update. Keen to get the scoop on a few bits here today. We've got a bit of a lineup. So first of all, I believe we've got a new chief of Microsoft Teams. How about we jump straight into that one?
Yeah, I think this is big news and bigger than it made on the mainstream news rounds, actually. So Teams is under a new CVP, Corporate Vice President. It's a guy named Jeff Teper, who's been in the Microsoft for a long time, 28 years, kind of credited as being the father of SharePoint, that whole project and that beast that became SharePoint as a business. So it's interesting to see that it's coming under somebody who already owns SharePoint and OneDrive and Stream, and I think it's a good potential home for Microsoft Teams.
So do you think you mentioned SharePoint there. I mean, SharePoint plays a major part in Microsoft Teams or vice versa. So do you think that's the plan there? He's going to leave from the SharePoint kind of perspective.
Yeah, I think it'll. So Microsoft sometimes can be thought of lots of individual companies all working together, and Teams takes a hard dependency on SharePoint for file storage and a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, all reporting into the same CVP, hopefully we'll see better alignment of SharePoint and Teams working together. I mean, there's a few examples of this, like the file experience in Teams is slightly different to the file experience in SharePoint, even though it's the same product underneath. Private channels create a SharePoint subsite when they could just create a folder in SharePoint that was private if SharePoint had that functionality. So I think it will take a while for any change like this, but I think we'll see more seamless integration of those two platforms for the user experience.
Great stuff. And so is that essentially Laurie Wright's replacement?
No, it's kind of so it's replacing a corporate vice president called Brian McDonald, who headed it up previously, and he headed it up from day one, and he was the guy who basically invented Outlook as well. So it's had some real heavy hitters in. So the CVP role is kind of more of a I run the entire part of that organization.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Rather, Microsoft's hierarchy does confuse me, so you have to forgive me.
Yeah, you and everybody else. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, great stuff. Well, we're looking forward to that because obviously we're seeing lots and lots of activity from Microsoft, from a roadmap perspective and development cycles. So it'll be interesting to see where they take Microsoft Teams this year and beyond. So good stuff. And we also, one major thing that happened recently, wasn't it? We had an outage.
Yeah.
We had an outage at UC today because we do use Microsoft Teams, and we experienced this outage. I must have reset my computer about 4 times thinking it was me. But tell us about that outage. What happened that day?
Yeah, so there was some sign-in issues, so new sign-ins were failing, and then it was a straight people couldn't sign in, and it ran for quite a few hours. I think it was 4 or 5 hours in the end. So I think root cause in that case was a certificate not being renewed on the back end, which is obviously you expect better from a platform like that. So we'll see what the ramifications are. But all these cloud players, it's not just limited to Microsoft, all seem to have bumps at times, and it's interesting to see what the enterprise reaction to that, like how strong it is. Or my feeling from the customers I talk to is obviously it's a huge issue, but not as big as it was back in the day. It seems like people are used to the computing being less than perfect, and as long as it comes back in a reasonable amount of time, we don't lose data. It's part of the new world of moving forward fast.
It's interesting. You could look at that from all different angles, couldn't you? So if you are a voice customer, for example, you're using phone system, and would those calls have been affected? You wouldn't be able to, if you can't sign in, you can't take phone calls. Therefore, you've got a customer experience problem as well, haven't you, on your hands?
Exactly, and that's why I'm surprised. Like in the knowledge worker world, I think flipping to mobile is sort of an acceptable DR scenario, but if you're customer facing, it's definitely a lot bigger deal. If you've got something like direct routing, you can reroute numbers. So if you own your phone numbers, you can reroute. So there is a DR mitigation there for direct routing customers. If you're calling plan or you're doing conferencing in the cloud, then that is impacted. But yeah, it brought me into an interesting conversation with a few customers about what is the SLA, and I did a blog on this. So Microsoft Teams is part of Office 365, so it rolls into the Office 365 SLA, which is 99.9. So this was a breach. I think you were over SLA, and they do service credits. So if you wanted to, you could apply for service credits on this outage. But it was interesting again how back in the day, like we had lots of conversations about Skype for Business and making it 5 nines, and even though the network was never 5 nines because the switching wouldn't be resilient, like it was always a conversation about the old PBX was 5 nines and is this new world 5 nines. But now 3 nines seems to be acceptable for lots of enterprise for their comms, which is a bit of a change.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because naturally, the more you bake Microsoft Teams into an organization, small or large, the more critical the functions and the platform is ultimately to that business. And this affects users, teams, customer experience, everything. So not to have a 5 nines policy seems maybe something they need to work on at Microsoft. Would you tend to agree, or would you say
it's interesting? It's a commercial and technical decision, isn't it? I like the challenge, I guess, is Teams is baked into Office 365 across the board. So do they need to make SharePoint 5 nines because the files are on it? Is it just for voice? Like, could they come up with a voice DR scenario? Does your voice need to be resilient to a cloud outage? And that's you can't say 5 nines because then it will be on the customer to set their gateway up to be resilient or whatever, but you can take it into your own hands. Is it acceptable? Like, our customers can reroute their numbers. So if you're using direct routing with us, we can flick a switch and push all those to a bat phone or a mobile. So phone calls keep coming and going. So is that okay? It's really a customer by customer decision, but you should go in with your eyes open as to what you're signing up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really shines a light on the value of direct routing as well, and taking those numbers outside of the calling plan from Microsoft as well.
Yeah, it does give you some additional resiliency that if everything goes wrong for any period of time, you can hit the button and reroute and at least keep your incoming calling going and your outgoing calling on mobiles or bat phones. So yeah, it's an upside for direct routing for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're not the only vendor having issues, and it sounds like a fairly sloppy mistake to not renew a certificate, but we're equally seeing lots of these mistakes turning into relatively catastrophic issues for customers.
I hope that maturity across the whole industry gets better. I mean, we're still on this journey from prem to cloud, and the other thing that I challenge with customers that would kick off about this is like, so your internal infrastructure has never gone down for 4 hours? Like, that's rare. So like you're yes, you'd expect better and you're paying for a service, but you're to the business, like you're offering a service, and that's the SLA of the contract at the end of the day.
Interesting. But again, all businesses need to look at DR, small and large, don't they? And what do they do in that situation? So yeah, interesting. Okay, so next up, we said we'd talk about some Power BI reports, 6 in fact. What's happening in the world of Power BI and Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, this is a bit techie, but Microsoft have a product called Call Quality Dashboard, which gives you all your performance reporting for Microsoft Teams, your packet loss, jitter, latency, call quality. And up until recently, there was no way to get to that data outside of their portal. But now that team have released a Power BI connector and some canned Power BI reports. So you can use Microsoft's big data analytics visualization tool to connect directly to their database and slice and dice the data in your own way. So for us, this is a really big deal. One of our biggest rollouts is 250,000 people globally. You can imagine the amount of data. We have a full-time expert who does nothing but look at this data on behalf of that customer and make sense of it. So being able to put it into Power BI and slice and dice it the way they want to is super, super powerful. So if you're using any conferencing or calling with Microsoft Teams, you definitely should look at this to get a better understanding of how your performance is for your users.
And you say performance, are we talking kind of technical diagnostic performance, or are we thinking more productivity?
Very much
meetings
and technical. It's not usage. It is packet loss, jitter, latency, networks, round trip time, and drop connections. It's all the techie end of the scale. There's already some good coverage, first party and third party, for how many people are using it, how are they using it. This is unlocking is the network up to spec, is the Wi-Fi working, do they have the right devices, those pieces of the puzzle.
Right. Okay. Sounds interesting if you're into the deep dark data of diagnostics. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be the operations team responsible for the service in customers that is super powerful for. And if you're a service owner or you run teams, it's worth pinging that to your ops people, your managed service, and say, hey, I'm looking for some of the insights into how we're actually doing with this stuff.
And that's readily available. Do you need any additional licenses or anything like that for
all included, even in the very base Teams license, the Power BI, you can connect to it directly. So if you've got Teams, you have access to this for sure.
Right, good. Well, it may be a job for the weekend for me to maybe dive into some of my diagnostics and see what I find. Yeah, sounds like a hoot. Great stuff. Okay, so let's move on to ISE. You've got an update on your blog, in fact, about a Shure ceiling and table array.
Yeah, I know you were there, so I'd be interested to see what you saw. But one of the standout announcements for me was from Shure. So Shure do some pretty high-end audio-video stuff, and they are now certified to connect their ceiling tile mic array and their desk-based mic via one of their DSPs to Microsoft Teams. So this is really unlocking. One of the challenges with Teams initially was the room systems are PCs and USB based, so you could attach USB speakers and USB cameras, but in a bigger boardroom you need the higher end kit, maybe multiple ceiling mics, multiple table mics. So you can now connect a DSP that has USB on one end and the proprietary clever stuff from Shure on the other end, and connect this really high end gear to a Microsoft Teams room.
So when you say connect, I mean, how do you connect the physical microphone array to Microsoft Teams? You mentioned a DSP.
Yeah, so DSP, digital signal processor, is just a box. The box has USB on one side to connect to your Microsoft Teams room, and on the other it can IP or physically connect to like standards-based systems or proprietary systems, depending on who you're buying from. But essentially it's a box of tricks that does mic balancing, signal processing, understands all the mics in the room and what's going on, and you can tune them, so you can tune them to your specific space. So some clever end audio processing, and then these mic systems will connect up to any conferencing platform via that kind of box. What's new is Microsoft have tested and certified that it'll all work seamlessly. So when you press mute on the Teams room system, it will mute the ceiling mics, and the ceiling mics will go red, that kind of thing.
Nice.
But it really unlocks, like, there's some great kit out there that's USB first, but when you're in a proper high-end boardroom where everything has to be perfect, and like there's 20, 30 people in the room and they all want to be heard very, very well, investing in that audio quality, in fact, I would invest in that way before I invested in improved video, because that's, for the remote experience, the audio is absolutely critical. So you're able to service those high-end scenarios.
That sounds pretty cool. And so that plugs a big gap in the portfolio, essentially, because they didn't have an accredited ceiling array before, did they not?
Yeah, Sennheiser had one that was accredited, so that piece was there. But quite often with AV, people prefer certain vendors. They already have a standard as well, and Shure have got a lot of respect in that space as well. So it's another option for AV vendors. And the table mic I've had a demo of this stuff at their kind of demo center, and they do, they let you sit in one room as the remote party, in another room, and they walk around and things like that. And it's high end kit, like it's expensive, but you can see where the money goes in terms of how it can deal with multiple people speaking, how it can beamform the mics to the right person around the table, and I love taking the mics off the table, like both from an aesthetic point of view and a performance point of view. You don't get that like rattly table type scenario.
No, interesting. Really good, that. And in terms of ISE, I was there too. It was a little bit quieter than usual because of the coronavirus scare or outbreak or whatever you want to call it, but it's still a hugely busy event, isn't it? I mean, you struggle to walk the floors, really, to be honest,
Yeah,
because there's that many
it's
people.
massive, and there's always so much going on at that event. And it's interesting. That event years ago wasn't even on my radar, and now it very much is because of all this room systems from Microsoft and the third-party interop. It's a big show now for the Microsoft space as well.
Yeah, indeed, and it's my second year of going to the ISC. It's classically wet and very cold when I'm there, but it's moving to Barcelona next year, which I'm quite looking forward to. So, but they do have a big UC hall, and that UC hall, I don't know why I quite understand why they call it the UC hall. It really should probably be called the collaboration hall, because there's just not actually that many unified communications providers in that room. They are more from the AV video conferencing world.
Yeah, it's the people connecting to those platforms, isn't it? Not the platform
Yeah.
vendors themselves. It's a devices AV show primarily, I think.
Yeah, indeed. But maybe there's opportunity as they get more capacity and they grow for maybe the UC UCAS providers taking a place in the event too, because all the brands kind of are in that deep in that collaboration space, that video conferencing space, were there. We had Poly, they launched a new lens device management solution.
Yeah.
And so did Logitech. I think at a very similar time, they launched their own device management solution, and they're selling it for free. Well, they're not selling it, it's free.
Yes.
For managing their devices as well. So interesting. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Logi are interesting. They're making a real proper push for business and enterprise now. Like, they've always done it, but they now have a dedicated team. I'm sure you went to their NDA session. Like, they are taking enterprise a lot more seriously now. The management platform is a big part of that. Poly's obviously always been in that space. What's interesting here for teams is all these certified vendors are creating a management platform for their devices. Not many customers are going to be 100% native to one device. So can they manage multiple devices? Do they do certain things for their devices and certain things for other people's devices? Do I, as a customer, if I want Logitech in one place and Poly in another and Lenovo in another, do I have to run 3 platforms? And what can I do natively with Teams versus those platforms? There's a lot of work for a customer to do to kind of deduce the right strategy there.
Yeah, completely agree. Will they API into each other? Are they going to play nicely with each other?
Yeah,
I think that's a challenge. Yeah, especially with
I think the smart play for those vendors is to try and be as interoperable as possible to be the default platform, because that, at least if you've got the platform, and like Logi giving it away for free is a big statement as well. Like, we're prepared to give this platform to support our devices. But Microsoft are doing first party management stuff, and they're trying to make a lot of the management native to them. So there's a bit of a tension there with API access on the devices. Do they want Poly to have the same level of control as you can do in the Microsoft tenant admin? I mean, ultimately, Microsoft are an ecosystem play, so I'm sure they would say we'd love to API enable everything, but then where are the APIs?
Yeah, we want to watch, really. I think the device management, service management platforms, they're certainly making the headlines more and more. There's a lot of vendors now in that space, and there's a lot of activity, isn't there? A lot of vendors are now really kind of announcing their new platforms. So yeah, I think there's certainly one to watch.
Yeah, and first party or third party, you need something in that space. If you're rolling out thousands of phones, and again, we've done this, I've seen it, like you need something to have the overriding config management and firmware management and stuff. Like, just having a web page with 10,000 phones on it to patch is not scalable. You need automation and management in there. So I'm sure that'll get better and better, as you say, one to watch.
Yeah, I didn't hear much about insights and I suppose analytics and insights from Logitech when I spoke to them. But when I spoke to Poly, they were playing a real kind of core message around the insights and analytics that their lens product offers. So they're saying you can glean more than just diagnostics from it.
Yes, they've got some real heritage as well, that because of their history in this space, like even their USB cameras have an IP connection to manage them out of band of the team system, for example, or their studio bar, so they can pull analytics off the cameras, like how many people were in the room, how much time was the camera on, all that stuff can be remotely accessed, which is really interesting.
Yeah, so lots happening in the device management / service management world. So last up on our list to cover in terms of news stories, you mentioned call recording tap has started. Now, this is something to do with Variant Verba recording now on Microsoft Teams. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Randy Chapman, who's one of the MVPs in the UK, has done a really good blog on Verba's solutions. There are a few different vendors doing call recording for Teams. Microsoft have an API. It's still in a preview, so it's early customers only, so it's not generally available yet. We're on the Tap 2 playing around with it, and it gives you the ability to compliance record. So at the moment, Teams has what's the word, like courtesy recording, meeting recording, but it's not compliance. It's not individual PSTN calls, and it's not every call. You have to click it manually. This is for FinServ, for anybody regulated, legal, who needs every call recorded for a particular user. And not just calls, but also conferences, audio, video, desktop sharing. All those things are capturable, or will be, I should say, capturable when this stuff is GA. So a big unlock for compliance people to be able to use Teams.
Yeah, that's potentially huge, isn't it, for the call recording vendors that are out there as well. If they can tap into that Microsoft Teams world, lots of opportunity for the vendors. But as you say, there's a very much a casual call recording or session recording approach to Teams at the moment, if you just take it vanilla straight from Microsoft. So it'd be interesting how that. Do you think you'll see more and more enterprises moving away or even just adopting those external providers for call recording?
Definitely, we've got lots of FinServ customers that use Variant bought Verba, I should say, Variant call recording for Skype today, and they're blocked from going to Teams. They can't go to Teams until recording is there. So there are definitely tens, if not hundreds of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of seats that are blocked on Skype until recording becomes available. So this is a big unblock, definitely.
Wow. So once that tap is essentially unblocked, it's going to open the doors for a lot of vendors are going to start announcing Microsoft Teams compatible call recording compliance solutions.
Yeah, definitely. There's half a dozen vendors on the tap. I don't have the list to hand. Like Audio Codes are on it, Variant are on it. There's a couple of others. So, and they're all hitting the same APIs from Microsoft to get the data. So it's interesting to see what their differentiation is. It's around how we store it, how we deploy the analytics. A lot of them do compliance over multiple platforms. So they do Cisco and Avaya and Mitel and Microsoft. So there'll be some interesting differentiation in that space.
Yeah, I mean, most of those vendors have already got, pedigree solutions in that call recording space, haven't they? So I suppose just opening up that capability should just give, allow those vendors to just enter the Microsoft Teams space.
Yeah, they've been clamoring for the API access to get this stuff done. So it's a hard problem for Microsoft to solve at the scale they're working at. So
yeah, sure.
Like that's why it takes a while, and it has to be compliant. You can't mess about, obviously. So, but yeah, it'll be a big unlock for a lot of customers.
Interesting. Right. So that's our kind of news roundup for February, or certainly the last month or so. Let's talk about some of the up-and-coming events. There's lots happening over the next few weeks. Yes, we've got lots happening. First of all, we're going to see each other next week at the Cloud Comms Summit in London, hosted by Cavell Group, the research and analyst house. You're going to be there. You've got. Are you part of a panel session? Did you say?
Yeah, that's it. I'm doing a panel. There's a session around Microsoft Teams and what's is it seen as a threat or is it seen as an opportunity? And what we're doing a discussion about what we're seeing in the market, what enterprises are doing, where SIs and partners can play and add value. Basically, it should be really interesting.
Yeah, so maybe on the next roundup we can talk about that and get the headlines from you in terms of what went on. It's a very interesting topic, to be fair, because it is a service provider event, the Cloud Comms Summit. So I imagine a lot of those are coming up against Microsoft Teams. So a really on-trend discussion for you.
Yes, I think there'll be lots of opinions and lots of debate. I'm really looking forward to the event. It's great to, particularly that audience. It's a hot topic for them for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be treated much like a traffic warden walking through the room.
Yeah, quite possibly. I'm not sure if I'm going to be popular or not, depending on what I've got to say. But I will.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know me. I will always say what I think is the right thing, regardless, because it's an important discussion for their businesses.
Yeah, you might want to just kind of sneak out behind the curtain, kind of thing. Afterwards.
Well, I mean, Modality are treading the same path. You know, we used to deploy Skype servers, and now we offer cloud managed services. Like it's a transition I can talk about. Like you know, we have to follow the transition just like they do. It's just interesting that their spaces are often more traditional IPT, so it might be a jump for some of those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to that. After that, we've got an MVP summit in March, haven't we? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's a private event for MVPs, which I've been to for a number of years, where Microsoft take us behind closed doors. We get to talk to the product team about what's coming, what we think's coming, like what we think's important, what we're hearing from customers. So it's one of my highlights for the year. It's all NDA'd all week, so there won't be any news from it, but it gives us the insight of the next 6 to 9 months and where the priorities are, and gives us a chance to voice what we're seeing on the ground and what we think needs prioritization. So that's exciting.
Yeah, sounds like a good forum. So it's bi-directional. It's you listening to them, but also Microsoft listening to the MVPs.
Yes, and we've certainly seen over the last few years it has pivoted from, in the server days, it was like pretty much, here's what we're going to do, what do you think? Now it's like, what would you like us to do? What would unblock seats? What would help the customers? So in the cloud world, Microsoft has become much more, I think we've seen this, you know, with the public user voice, with the forums, like they are taking feedback in. Doesn't mean they're doing everything everybody says straight away. They consider business and seat count and everything else, but certainly it feels like it's a more open Microsoft than it's ever been.
Yeah, and given what you do, Tom, at Modality and what you do as an MVP, it sounds like a crucial event for you to attend. So I hope that goes well, and I'm sure you'll let us know in time.
Yes, when I can, all the news will be here. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next up after that, in March, 18th and 19th of March, we've got the Smart Communication and Connected Business Expo. It's called it's SC and CB for short. It is part. It's a bit of a mouthful, but if you've ever heard of the Call and Contact Center Expo, it is part of that group. So it basically is a huge event. There's kind of 3 events in one, taking over the London Excel in London in March. And so there's a contact center side, but there is a smart communication and connected business expo, which showcases a lot of kind of UC and UCaaS providers.
Yeah, I was invited to this, and I would 100% be there if I wasn't in Seattle. They're really expanding out and doing lots of customer stories and customer focused stuff around how UC platforms and contact center and B2C and B2B, all those kind of conversations are happening there. So it looks like a good event.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good event last year. I think it's going to be even better this year. It's under new ownership, so it's going to be interesting to see. We will be there as media partner. We're running a bit of a news desk there, so we're looking forward to meeting anyone. If you've got an opinion on something or you'd like to say hi, come and see us. One thing that's really important is that we are organising a UC Advocates meetup at the event. So at the end of day 1, so UC Advocates, we're going to send out an invitation.
Are you buying the beers, Rob?
Probably not. I'll do see what I can do. It depends how many people turn up. But UC Advocates does have about 165 members currently. Big split between UK and US, some from wider Europe and other places. But we thought, whoever's in town, if you're interested in UC Advocates, you want to know more, or you are a UC Advocate, but you want to kind of get, say hi, shake hands, meet, greet, drink beer together, then come and see us at the Expo as well. And just to follow that up, we are doing another one in the US at Enterprise Connect later on in March as well, which we're going to come on to in a moment. But so looking forward to that. So Tom, if I know you're in Seattle, but if you've got anyone else you'd like to send, great.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good idea. It's a great opportunity. Those events, like particularly our subset community of the wider contact center community, that's a great opportunity to get together. And EC, we'll come on to, will be really busy for sure.
Yeah, great stuff. So if you want more information on registering your attendance for that kind of meet and greet at one of those events, by the time this video or podcast gets out, if you go to ucadvocates.com, there should be a page or a post on our website that produces a form that you can just put your name in and register your interest. So looking forward to that. So next up, before we jump onto Enterprise Connect, which is again, oh no, actually let's start with Enterprise Connect because that is the last event in March, isn't it? So you're going to go to Enterprise Connect this year in the US?
Yeah, no, I'm not there this year, unfortunately. I couldn't wangle it diary-wise, but it's one of the events that, again, like is really get bigger and bigger for Microsoft. So lots of announcements always come out at Enterprise Connect. So I'll be watching from afar, but interested to see I know you're over there. I'll see your content as well. I expect plenty of Microsoft announcements and that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we normally get a real flurry of press releases and updates and that kind of thing from the vendor landscape generally across the globe. Yeah. At EC weeks or on EC weeks. So I'm sure we're going to see lots. I've heard rumors from vendors that it's going to be some big announcements again. So I imagine Microsoft are going to be right in the middle of those announcements too.
Definitely. Yeah, there'll be some big stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't make it to the event, but you do want an update on what happened at Enterprise Connect, please just jump on uctoday.com and you'll see daily news coming out across that week and beyond. So next up after Enterprise Connect, we have CommsVerse, April 29th to the 30th. That's their debut big event, isn't it?
Yes.
But they also had a little preview kind of event in London, didn't they, at the Microsoft store recently?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good, actually. So we got I'd been in the store, but I hadn't been into the kind of corporate area. So you go upstairs and there's a big area with demos and a big room to speak in. And yeah, we had 2 other speakers come in. It was really good precursor to the event, and like it was almost universal hands up for coming to the big event. So that was the big thing. It's like it was a taster of what the kind of level of content would be. I'm really excited for that event. Like the speaker lineup is just crazy. They've gone all out on flying people in from Microsoft, flying in speakers from the US and Europe. Like it's a top-notch lineup of speakers from my point of view.
Yeah, I echo that as well. I've seen the lineup. It looks fantastic. We are media partner as well, so we're going to be on location doing some interviews and soaking up the vibe from the event. So it's a great venue. It's a new venue for us, and I'm looking forward to listen to some of the speakers there as well. And you've got a session there at the event too, right?
Yeah, I've got a couple of sessions. I think one on kind of governance success, and we're doing a panel type session about some of the myths of Teams and busting some of those myths as well.
Great. So if you're looking for a UK Microsoft Teams event, get to CommsVerse in
100%.
in April.
If you're a Teams person, like in StackRank, all these events are great, but that is a Teams focused 2 days run by the community, content first. It's going to be a real good one.
Great. I was speaking to Mark Vale, the founder of the event recently, and he said there's plenty of tickets left. They're probably going to sell out before the date.
Yeah, I think they're sub 80 now, so they're ticking away. Yeah, so you pull them out sooner rather than later, I think.
Yeah, absolutely right. Shout out for CommsVerse there then, and great stuff. And last but not least, we can't not mention May, because the UK's largest UC event happens on the 13th of May. So will you be going to the UC Expo this year?
Yep, yeah, I did. That's one I do every year, and again, they've kind of they're doing a bit of reinvigoration this year. There's some new people on the team. They're going very heavy on customer story stuff and customer speaking and analysts, and kind of getting more like balancing out the vendor stuff with real world, which I'm really excited about. Again, some stuff to firm up there, but we're definitely I'm doing a session. We're doing some panel stuff. So that is a really good networking one, and that's the one that I get from a UK perspective, a view of all the vendors. That's the kind of everybody's there that matters, and you get a really good understanding of what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is a cracking event. All the vendors are there. All the great speakers are there, and you're right. They are continually improving the quality of the sessions and the speakers that are there. So, and I must add that I am one of those speakers this year. I've got I'm going to deliver a market update. So I'm going to give you a kind of 12-month picture of the industry, all wrapped up into kind of a 20-minute session. Where I'll talk about the kind of the disruptors, the deals, the layoffs, and everything else that's happening in the industry. So if you're looking for a one-shot news update for the
Nice.
UC industry, come along to that event.
20 minutes. That's a tall order. That's going to be good.
Yeah, I've been practicing it over and over again to try and get it, just in that kind of 20-minute mark. But we'll see how we do. Plus, I will be running a little competition. I'm going to mention that actually. I'm going to be asking a question at the start of the presentation that if you answer it at the end, I'm going to give away a Facebook portal TV. So something to attract people and come along for a bit of fun as well.
I'm sure you won't struggle. I saw your Cisco versus Microsoft session last year or the year before. It was way out the door. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be busy.
Unfortunately, we're not doing another one of those this year. Maybe we should, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how well it went down with Microsoft and Cisco. But
well, I think you've gone. Yeah, it's more ambitious to go for the whole industry in 20 minutes. So you've stepped it up a bit.
Oh, right, really? Right, that's good. Well, thanks for the feedback, Tom. Hey, thanks for joining me today on this call. Again, it's available as a podcast. It's available as a video. Tom, you're an absolute Microsoft Teams guru. Thanks for your update again, and really look forward to catching up with you over the course of the next few weeks at some of these fantastic events.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me as always. And yeah, like if people are at the events, come and say hello. Like we would love talking to people, particularly people that get value from the show will have feedback from the show, but also just in the industry, like half this stuff comes from people I talk to on social and at customers. So it's always great to meet new people.